Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome back to Craft Portal. Good to have you here. Today we're going to sew in the signatures into the cover, hopefully, depending on how far I get. I have decided that I'm still going to do it my way rather than, because I don't want to end up with a book that I don't like or don't want, but I'm going to sort of do it multiple ways, if that makes sense. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to work these signatures into this yellow piece of flowery cardstock, as if that's the cover, like that. But this is actually my cover. So then I will show you what I do, and then I add this into this cover. So I'm gonna basically fold this over like that, so it's got a double edge everywhere. Then the idea is that the journal will sit there in the book, okay, and then when it folds over, it will fold over like that. This will fold over like that, and then it will, so let me just take the yellow out because I'm going to fold it there now, so you get the idea. Well, let's do it that way. All right, so that will fold over, and then that will have a piece, maybe if there's some left over, that folds like that, and then a closure here. Otherwise, because this will also be folded over like this is, if there's no space left, then it will just be a normal journal. So the book sort of grows with you as you progress. I've been trying to sort of get that message across quite a lot, that often the book will dictate what needs to happen with the book, so it evolves as you're progressing. Okay, but now to begin with, what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure this there, calculate where my fold begins, make a fold, and then calculate how thick that must be, allow a little bit for growth, score another line here, and then fold it over that way. Okay, so that's mostly what we're going to try to do now, and then once that's done, I will be sewing in the signatures into this. Okay, right, so I'm going to give myself a little bit of leeway. So if I need to cut anything off, or alternatively, I like, because these are hanging out, not all of this will hang out in the end, but I like to give myself a little bit of leeway to protect these pages that are hanging off. Okay, so I'm going to take this one and use it as a measure, right? And I'm going to measure it there, make sure it's straight on this line, all right? And by the end of the purple, I'm on 12. All right, so I'm going to use 12. I'm going to put this on there. All right, sorry, and grab a pen or something. Actually, I should be using a pencil if I can locate one fast. Nope, no idea. Okay, so that's on 12, so I'm going to give myself leeway up to number 13. So there, up to 13. And I'm just making a very, 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 very small mark there. Right, and I'm going to do the same on the other side. I'm just going to line it up on this side and make a mark at, I can't see that line. Line it up here, lining it up here, and making a mark at 13. Okay, so that's going to be my first fold for the journal. Okay, so I'm simply taking a ruler, I'm lining up those two marks that I've made. I need to turn this way, sorry. Okay, I'm lining up those two little marks. And I'm going to take my bone folder from the other side here. And I'm going to fold there. Okay. What's on this side doesn't matter because that will go on the inside of the wallpaper cover. I've chosen a different wallpaper this time. Right. Okay, now I need to determine how big is my spine. Okay. So let's have a look here, and I'm going to do it on the same measurement on this mat. All right, now I like using this side as my measurement rather than this side as my measurement, because the journal will grow and you want to give it that room to grow. Okay. What I've sometimes done is, if I calculated this part incorrectly, I would add a eyelet here and an eyelet there and put in a piece of elastic, and then that bit of the journal is like a traveler's notebook where you can add in extra pages and take them out. So even if you make an error, there's a way of fixing it again. Okay. All right, so that's sort of the measure that I have there. I'm going to use a ruler. Guys, this will be in centimeters, but I will try my best. 2.2 centimeters is 1 inch. So to give you an idea of what we're talking about. All right, so I'm trying to keep that straight, but I'm also trying to give myself leeway here. Okay. So that's about 3 3/4 centimeters. So I'm going to make my spine 4 centimeters. All right, so a 4 centimeter spine. So that's roughly 2 inches, is that? Just less than 2 inches. So, okay, so this is centimeter there. 4 is on pretty much on 4. Okay, so I'm going to use that as my guide. So I'm going to maybe mark it on the other side. Makes it a little bit easier for the marking. Well, no, it won't. No, it won't. All right. Use this as my guideline. Make sure it's straight on here. All right. And mark my spine at 4 centimeter. There. And turn around and put this on 4 centimeter and mark. Oh, I couldn't see the line. Okay, and mark that on the 0 marking. Okay, so the exact same thing. I'm going to put the ruler on here at the 2 marks I've made. I could take the bone folder, okay. Now there's some reasoning behind why I do a double thing. The first thing is, I don't love a spine that's on the outside. Okay, so what's going to happen now is my spine stitches is going to sit here, and then this will be glued into here. So my outside cover is going to look like that. Okay, now someone asked me why don't I like the outside spine, and I'm not saying for anybody else they shouldn't do it that way, but I came to junk journaling sort of from a book binding, sort of investigating book binding and how does that work, and they make beautiful spines on books in book binding. And when I saw the junk journal outside stitches, some of them are very beautiful, you know, like they make decorative stitches, and that is beautiful to me. But just the normal stitches on the outside, I don't like that much. So I always find a way to cover it up. And then the other thing that I really like doing is I like to put a ribbon bookmark in my junk journal. So often what I would do is once the signatures are sewn in here, all right, and before I glue it to the outside cover, I will glue ribbon or things, even one or two sometimes in here, that would then come over, and then I can use them as a bookmark in my book, you know. I like doing that. Okay, so all right, there's it's quite wide. It's going to give me quite a wide stretch there. All right, some people might not agree with this because they are going to feel the gaps there are too big, but you can believe me, by the time you've started seriously decorating this journal, those gaps are too small. Okay, all right. But again, if you've really made an error and it's really too big, then you can put an eyelet there, and put a piece of elastic string in there, quite tight, you know, like zip, all right? And then that will, you can add extra pages in there, take out pages. All right, so I need to measure the bottom here. Let's just have a look. Right, that's 15. Right, let's just make sure it's there. Okay, it's exactly 15, so I'm gonna give myself 16 here. Right, all right, there's 16, and if I go on the other side and I measure 16, so there, where's 16? Okay, there, and there's 16. So that's where I need to cut this off. Okay, I'm not gonna cut it off. I'm gonna do the exact same thing. What you would do now in this case is you would cut it off, but I'm going to make a pocket on my inside. I like every opportunity to make a pocket. Okay, so I'm gonna use that extra to make it a pocket on the inside covers, front cover and back cover. The reason why I like pockets is often if you journal, you have something that you want to add into your journal, but you're not journaling at that moment. And I like the inside pockets idea because it allows me to put little bits and pieces that I want to use later into the journal, and then when I get to actual journaling, I can just grab it from those inside pockets. It's nice to have a little space there. Right, but again, this is not Junk Journal 101 necessity. All right, I'm going to cut out this little bit because I don't want an extra space on the spine. Okay, so I'm just going to go slightly to the right of this fold and sort of slightly in a skew manner so that this doesn't hit on, snag on anything. All right, and then on this one, slightly to the left of the fold, also a slightly skew cut, and then cut that off. Right, that was a skew cut. I need to do that better. I was hoping this is going to be a fast video, but it doesn't look like it will be. Not at the rate I'm going. Alright, now when I decided that I'm going to make a 3 signature journal, the reason why I wanted to do that is I wanted to show you guys how do you make sure that these are equally spaced on any spine, on any piece of spine? And the simple solution is you work one signature on that side, you work another signature in on that side, and then what's left over you check where's the middle, and you mark that and you work that one in exactly on the middle. Okay, so that's why I wanted to do a 3 signature journal. Okay, I'm gonna do it that way, I think. All right, and make it. Now if again that space is too big, eyelets. If that space is too big, eyelets. But by the time you finish decorating a journal, there's always too little space. All right, there just seems to be no end in decorating. I'm really going to try to keep this sort of a really basic journal, but you'll see when you start decorating a journal, it becomes there's always something more to add. All right. All right, now let's begin with the first one. Okay. I have a really big needle. All right, and I have embroidery thread. Okay, any color will do, any which way you want it. Okay, will do, not a problem. Okay, now what I do is I calculate 3 times. You actually need twice, but I use 3 times. So 1, 2, 3. I like to give myself a little bit of extra. It will be lost, but I don't want to end up ever with a problem whilst I'm sewing in a signature. All right. First thing you do is, this is a little trick when you bring your, well, let's thread this one first, then you'll have a better idea of what I'm talking about. Okay, so I'm gonna thread my thread through the needle. Okay, actually, you know what, I'm gonna make it a double thread, because it's an easier way as a beginner to do it. Okay, so I'm gonna give myself once, twice, 3 times. Any songs coming to mind? 4 times. And I'm gonna give myself a bit of leeway. All right. Alright, so I'm going to use this and thread it into my needle. You don't have to do it as a double thread. I'm just telling you that it's an easier way as a beginner to make sure that everything works. Okay, and you make a knot there. Alright, that knot, once you've made holes in the thing, that knot is not enough to keep the thread on the inside. Okay, so what you need to do now, this is again, it's just a little trick, it's not a necessity for junk journaling 101. So what I do is sort of the tail that I want left at the end at least. Alright, I tie this paper clip in there. Alright, just one knot. I don't want it tied for all time, not tight or anything. I'm just tying it in there. Alright, okay. Now I want to explain the 3 pamphlet stitch to you. I'm not going to do the 3 pamphlet stitch, but I will draw you a proper explanation. Most people in the junk journaling community uses a 3 pamphlet stitch. Okay, so it's acceptable to do it that way. It's not a problem at all. I just do not do it. Okay, so I'm not gonna work this, I'm not gonna sew this in a method that, again, that I do not want. Okay, all right. How the 3 pamphlet stitch works. You've got your book, all right, and there's your halfway. Right, so what they do is they make a hole in the middle, then they make a hole somewhere at the top and a hole somewhere at the top. Okay. Now, the reason I don't like this is, firstly, it's very difficult to sew because it makes your it's unequal, it's unstable, and you the whole time your papers wants to fall apart the whole time whilst you're doing this. My other problem is if you've got a page like this, all right, you've got this little page, maybe even a little, okay, that one will be caught by all three, but sometimes it will only be caught by two. Sometimes you've got something small, and if you've got this too far to the ends, it might even just catch on, you know, like if it was that size, it might even just catch on one, or if you put it in the middle, it might just catch on one. So you've actually got a loose page hanging around in your journal. Okay, I don't like that idea. All right, so but I'll explain the 3 pamphlet stitch to you so you will never forget it, how it works. All right, so what you do is you go in with your needle and thread. All right, you go into the first line, so you go in there, then you can go either to the top or the bottom. All right, so now you are on the outside of the book and you come out there. All right, then you go all the way to the other side, so you go, all right, and you go in there. Now you're on the outside of the book again, and you come back through the middle hole. Right, so you go there and you go back through the middle hole. Now you've got both those threads on your middle. It's very important when you bring that up, when you have the 2 threads at the top, your middle thread, make sure that the one thread is on this side and the other thread comes out on this side. So when you tie it up there, that you're actually tying it around that middle thread that is there. So again, I'm just going to quickly explain it. You go in, you go out. Now you've got a middle thread. There's your middle thread. All right, you go right down to the other side, in, and you've got your 2 threads. Make sure they come out on 2 sides of that thread. All right, and tie a proper knot twice, and then you can either snip it off or you can leave a dangle and attach something to the dangle even if you want to. Okay, all right, that's not what I'm going to do. All right, what I'm going to do is use a piece of cotton. All right, I'm going to cut it the same length as my book. So I'm just measuring the book. It's there. All right, and I'm just going to cut that. Then you fold this in the middle. Sorry, let me just move that out of the way. You fold it. It really doesn't matter if it's skew. It's not an exact science, this. It's just to get a fold where you can make holes. Okay. All right. Fold it like that. All right, and now you need to decide how far from the top do you want your first hole to be. Okay, so if you look at that, I think about 2 centimeters would make a good fit. Okay, so I'm going to make a mark in this one, 2 centimeters from there. Okay, so there's my 2 centimeter mark, and then I'm going to go to the other side and make a 2 centimeter mark. Okay, all right, then I'm going to look at what is the difference between my 2 marks. Okay, so I've got 10 point something, nearly 11. Okay, now it's really up to you. You can have a hole every half centimeter, you can have a hole every centimeter, etc. Let's just see if we work on 2 centimeters, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. That ends too close there. All right. So if I make it 2.5 centimeters, so 2.5, 1, 2.5, 1, 2.5, 1, 2.5. Again, it doesn't calculate. Okay. So then we need to look at 1.5 centimeters. 1.5 there. 3, 4.5, 6, 7.5, 9. Okay, that one more or less works out. Okay, so that's the one that I'm going to choose. I'm going to bring that hole in slightly, and I'm going to bring that hole in slightly. Okay. So that's the way you calculate. The book actually predict or tells you how you're going to do it. Okay. So now I take my big needle. You can use any pokey tool, any sort of thing that will tell you what to do. And then on those markings that you've decided on, you make a hole through there. And a hole through there. And a hole through there. A lot of people do this sort of by rocket science. You know, they want to pre-calculate everything and it has to work out perfectly. And there's a place for that. And I'm not dissing anybody that does that. By all means, do what you find wonderful and good. But in the end, the idea of this is it is a junk journal. You know, it's not a perfection journal. If you want to do it perfect, maybe look into bookbinding, because then you can get the most beautiful perfect pages and bookbind them with proper bookbinding, stitching, etc. You know. All right, now the reason I use this is I'm going to work in 3 signatures, and this way I've now made sure that that each signature, because this is as long as the book, that each signature will have its holes on the exact same space and the exact same place. Okay, now you need to mark which side is top and which side is bottom. So I'm going to just write there top and bottom. Okay, just so that if this measurement is slightly off, that you start at the same place every time. Okay, all right, now I'm going to open this to the middle. All right. Now's the time to make sure that each page as you want it is there or shifted where you want it in the journal. Okay. So make sure every page is exactly where in the journal you want it. Okay. So I'm just going to go through quickly and make sure. This one I think I might want more to the middle. All right. It's especially important for pages that's shorter than sort of the whole length of the thing. All right. And this one I do think I want at the bottom like that. Okay. So I'm happy with that. All right. Now I put this thing in the middle there. All right. And I bring it into my journal. So there's my line. Let me turn it this way for you to see. I just move stuff off the screen that's not necessary. Right. I think what I need to do is maybe just mark it. You guys will figure it. It will be easier for you guys to see. Right. So if I put my first signature in the book like that, do this. Do what I'm doing here to show up, because you can already see it's this is already forcing this to drop. So give yourself, this is difficult to explain, right? Give yourself, as you're pushing look what this does as I'm pushing this edge. Okay, so I've got it right there now, and now I'm pushing it. Do you see that that gap is growing? So that's so now you sort of want to get it to the right angle there, and then you want to mark where that spot is, all right? And that's the spot where you want to work it in. Sorry that I'm explaining it so awkwardly, but I've never seen this properly explained in a video. So, and those are the sort of things that when somebody starts making a junk journal that they're going to struggle with. They're not going to, and then the journal is awkward at the end. Okay, so you see what I've done. I've pushed up my edge, and then see where this sits comfortably, and then I made a mark there, very small light mark there. All right, and then the easiest way to make sure it's straight now is to measure that, and that's where centimeters comes in very handy, because we have very small increments, very small measurements for increments. So it's sort of 8.5 millimeters. And then I'm going to go from the bottom, and I'm going to also measure 8.5 millimeters, and I'm going to mark that. Okay, all right. Now, ideally, you shouldn't be marking this. Maybe I should do it this way. Yeah, because then I'll see it from the back. All right. So measure your 8.5 millimeters there. All right. Measure your 8.5 millimeters there. Right, now by default, the other one will also be 8.5 millimeters. So you can just as well measure the other side. So no, that's 9, that's 8.5 there. But again, it doesn't have to be precise. It's a junk journal. It's not a bookbinding book, you know. All right, and then draw yourself a line so that you can see where that is. This is another reason why a inside spine works better than an outside spine, because you can't make these markings on an outside spine and then get rid of them afterwards. So now I'm just going to measure the middle of the two. So that is sort of let me get that on the line exactly. So that's 2.3 millimeters. So I want to be on sort of 1150. So that there. I'm just getting the middle of those two. Okay, 1150. All right, and drawing my line. All right. The fact that you make an inside spine for me covers a multitude of sins. If you should make an error, or if you should do something wrong. Okay. All right. So there we have. We're going to put this in there. Just making it sure. All right. I've got my first hole. I think I'm going to use a paper, a little binder to keep it safe, or to keep it in the same space. Binder clips. Just take out a few as I might need them. Okay, you can never have enough of these things. Okay, so whenever you get them, make sure you grab them. Okay, right, so I'm going to, I hate it when they've not been used before. Right. Okay, so I'm just gonna clip that there. I'm gonna clip another one . I'm pressing this in very tightly to make sure it's not off. Clip that in there. Alright. And you see there, I'm going very tight and clip that in there. Okay, right, that one won't fall off now. Okay, now I'm going to make a hole there. I like doing this first and then that, but you can do it at the same time if you want to. Okay, so I'm going to make a... Okay, do you see now, while I'm pressing, I see that skew. I can actually feel it skew. So I've made a mistake there. I need to go back, sort of start over again. All right, go back. I haven't pressed my signature in tight enough. Okay. All right, let's see if that works. So I'm going to that button. I know I'm making it sound long and complicated, but I'd rather explain everything to you than having you try this on your own and then you struggle to do it, you know? Okay, so I'm just going through all the holes that we predetermined. Oh, this one doesn't want to go. Okay, there we go. All right. Okay, now you can go and you can determine where is this book gonna sit on this. So how much space there and how much space left over there. Okay, so I'm happy with that, and I'm just gonna mark where that dot should be. Now I'm not sure if I'm on the right place that shows on the other side, but I do need a more or less. Okay. Okay. Now, all right. Now by just sort of looking through this against the light, I can actually see where my marking is versus where my line is. Okay. So I can actually see exactly. So there's my mark. And okay, there's my line. Okay. There's my mark. There's my line. And you can't do this if you have a whole bunch of papers to go through. You can literally only do it because it's one page and you can see through it. You can of course make the markings from this side as well. So it's not, if you can't see through whatever you're using, you can use the markings from this side as well. Okay, there we go. My first row is done. Okay, it's easier when you get better at this to mark all of these beforehand and go and do the same exercise now beforehand. But I don't want to do it that way for a beginner junk journaling thing, because sometimes you get confused and it's too much to remember all at the same time. Okay, now you need to take off this little piece, and then you need to make sure all the rest of your stuff is properly bound and tightened, and that it's not going to move and not going to go anywhere whilst you're sewing. Okay, again, binder clips cannot be underestimated. They fell directly from heaven. Okay. All right. Okay. I like to sew my journals in starting from the back, coming in. The reason for that is I use the rest that's left over here as part of a tassel or something that I make at the end. But for the benefit of this Junk Journal 101, I will do it from here. Now you can literally start at any hole you want. There's absolutely no conditioning on which hole you want to start at. I think I'm going to start at the top, so if there's a dangly that it can sort of dangle the whole book through, and you can even sort of maybe use it a little bit as a bookmark or whatever. I just like to leave myself with choices, okay? So I'm going to go through my book there, all right? And I'm going to pull my thread right up to